Hard work is the most plentiful commodity in the world. In the hyper-competitive landscape of 2026, a traditional work ethic is no longer a competitive edge, it is merely the baseline cost of entry. If sheer effort were the primary driver of success, the global economic hierarchy would be inverted. The individuals and enterprises that truly dominate their fields aren't necessarily working more hours than their peers. They are operating on a fundamentally different cognitive framework, the compounding ROI model. They have realized that in a world of automated efficiency, the only way to escape commoditization is to engineer and exploit unfair advantages that produce non-linear returns. Most people approach their growth through a linear lens, trading 1 unit of input for 1 unit of output. This is the treadmill trap. Whether you are a specialized consultant or a high-level executive, if your value is tied strictly to your manual hours or repetitive tasks, you possess zero structural leverage. To move into the top tier of earners, you must shift your focus from general efficiency to ROI density. This is the logic of the lever. Success is determined not by how hard you push, but by where you stand. You must identify the activation energy, the specific threshold of effort or capital required to trigger a massive non-linear explosion in value. At the core of this model is the principle of compounding. While most associate this concept with 401k statements, high-intent thinkers recognize it as a universal law of strategic advantage. Success is a lagging indicator of a persistent loop of preparation and the systematic accumulation of intellectual and digital capital. Compounding interest is famously interest earned on interest, but in a career context, it is capacity earned on capacity. Improving something by just 1% every day doesn't leave you 3.6 times better at the end of the year, it leaves you 37 times better. When you reinvest your gains into your own capacity to act, you create a snowball effect that eventually becomes an unstoppable force. A genuine unfair advantage is something that is challenging for your competitors to replicate or acquire easily. It is a unique leg up working in your corner that the competition cannot access. This might take the form of specific knowledge, a synthesis of your unique history, rare technical skills, and distinct personality. In the 2026 economy, if your skill can be taught in a 12-week bootcamp, it is a commodity. If it is the result of a decades-long compounding of diverse interests, it is a moat. Real structural advantage is found in the things that feel like play to you but look like work to others. You are not looking for a job description to fit into. You are looking to become the only person in the world who can solve a specific high-value problem at the intersection of your unique expertise. This phenomenon is amplified by the Matthew effect, a social principle of accumulated advantage where those who start with a slight lead accrue more of that advantage over time. Psychologically, human perception and social behaviors amplify these initial wins. One high-profile project, if handled well, opens the door to bigger opportunities and referrals, making future success significantly easier to achieve. Early recognition builds confidence not just in you, but in the decision-makers around you. When the market sees you excel in one area, they are more likely to trust you with bigger responsibilities, creating a positive feedback loop where the rich get richer in terms of both capital and credibility. To build a career or enterprise that cannot be commoditized, you must apply the Lindy effect to your intellectual stack. The Lindy effect posits that the future life expectancy of an idea or a skill is proportional to its age. In an era of 6-month technological hype cycles, the most valuable capabilities are those that are robust and Lindy-proof, while your competitors are frantically upskilling in temporary software interfaces. The high-intent thinker is doubling down on strategic philosophy, complex problem-solving, and the navigation of human irrationality. By stacking these time-tested foundations with modern AI-driven execution, you create an intellectual moat that ages in reverse. Imagine you have finally achieved the impossible. You have crossed the 10 million net worth threshold. You have the primary residence in a high-value US zip code, the exotic cars, and the absolute autonomy over your calendar that you've chased for over a decade. By every statistical measure of the American dream, you have won, and yet, you wake up every morning with a tightening in your chest and an annoying sense of insufficiency. You feel behind. You feel like you are losing. This isn't a moral failing or a lack of gratitude. It is the manifestation of a structural cognitive trap that decimates high achievers, relative deprivation. Relative deprivation is the psychological phenomenon where we evaluate our status and success not by absolute measures of utility or past progress, but by our position relative to a specific reference group. In the 2026 economy, Your reference group is no longer local. It is global and algorithmic. Historically, human beings compared themselves to their immediate neighbors, the local maxima of their physical tribe. Today, through the lens of digital platforms, your tribe has become a curated feed of the world's most extreme outliers. You aren't comparing your success to your peers, you are comparing your messy reality to the top 0.001% highlight reels, leading to a permanent state of perceived deprivation regardless of your actual wealth. This trap is powered by social comparison theory, a fundamental drive to determine our social and personal worth based on how we stack up against others. The danger for the high-intent thinker is that, as you become more successful, your reference group upgrades. When you were making $100,000, you wanted to be a millionaire. Now that you are a millionaire, your brain instinctively pivots its gaze to the decamillionaires. This is the arrival fallacy in action, the belief that reaching a certain destination will provide lasting fulfillment. In reality, the dopamine release of achievement is fleeting, and the hedonic treadmill ensures that yesterday's triumph quickly becomes today's baseline. For many US professionals, this leads directly into the success trap. You become a prisoner of the very life you designed to free you. Because high achievers tend to tie their identity to external results and the scoreboard of revenue or titles. Any slowdown in relative growth feels like a total collapse of self. You find yourself standing at the summit of your industry, only to feel nothing but the wind. You've played by the rulebook, secured the wealth, and earned the status. But the victory feels hollow because you've been winning a game where the rules were never yours to begin with. You have optimized your life for a map of success that doesn't match the territory of your soul. The core problem is a categorical error, playing an infinite game with a finite mindset. Most high achievers view success as a series of hurdles to be cleared or enemies to be crushed. They are obsessed with winning a game of accumulation that has no end, leading to quagmires and burnout. This mindset is the primary driver of strategic stagnation. Real fulfillment cannot be pursued. It must ensue as a side effect of surrender to a cause greater than oneself. To break the cycle of relative deprivation, you must move from chasing outcomes to cultivating identity, becoming the person who values the process more than the proceeds. You have done the research, you have built the spreadsheet, you have mapped out a 3-year trajectory for your career or your business that is mathematically sound and internally consistent. On paper, your success is a foregone conclusion. And yet, reality isn't cooperating. The market isn't reacting to your data. Your team isn't responding to your formalization. You are encountering friction you never anticipated. The reason is a fundamental cognitive error that decimates even the most brilliant USX executives. You have confused the map for the territory. This mental model, first popularized by Alfred Korzybski, reminds us that the abstractions we create to understand the world are not the world itself. A map is useful precisely because it is a reduction. It ignores the individual blades of grass and the microscopic cracks in the pavement to show you a path. If a map were to represent the territory with perfect fidelity, it would no longer be a reduction and therefore would no longer be useful. But if you begin to believe the map is the physical reality, you become blind to the terrain changes that the map cannot see. In 2026, as information complexity explodes, the danger isn't having a bad plan, it's having a perfect plan that exists only in a vacuum. For the high-intent professional, this often manifests as the fallacy of formalization. We believe that formal systems are superior to human systems because they can process more data. We fall in love with a success trap, where we rigidly adhere to the strategies that worked in the past, failing to realize that the territory has shifted beneath us. We become like the traveler whose GPS says to move forward, even as the road turns into a cliff. We have mistaken the representation for the reality, and the price of that mistake is a total strategic collapse. This error leads directly to the fallacy of prediction. Traditional strategic management assumes that if we can measure enough variables and analyze enough results, success is guaranteed. However, even the best strategies experience unforeseen economic, industry, and social shifts. When your strategy promises predictable success but delivers persistent failure, it is a signal that your map is outdated. You aren't operating in the territory. You are operating in a spreadsheet that has come to life in your mind, divorced from the messy, volatile reality it was meant to describe. To break this cycle, you must recognize the entropy trap and the eye-opening paradox. Most leaders believe that when a plan fails, the solution is more information. But in complex, heavy-tailed decision spaces, meaning multiplies faster than clarity. Information opens the door to more variables, and without a foundation of irreducible truths, entropy reases. Adding more detail to your map doesn't make it more accurate. It often makes it more confusing and less actionable. You become a slave to a model that is more complex than the problem it was designed to solve. The hallmark of a high-intent thinker is the ability to maintain epistemological humility. They understand that all models are wrong, but some are useful. They don't try to optimize a map that should have been discarded. Instead, they run an assumption audit on their formal systems. They ask, is this belief mandated by the laws of nature, or is it a socially constructed recommendation masquerading as a rule? They look for the real humans behind every requirement and challenge the logic from the ground up, ensuring that they are mapping the territory as it is now, not as it was 5 years ago. To ground your map in the reality of the territory, you must transition from rational prediction to superior probabilistic judgment. In the volatile 2026 landscape, the most successful US enterprises are moving away from fixed strategic targets and adopting a framework known as Bayesian Edge Thinking. Instead of treating your plan as a static reference, you must treat it as an evolving hypothesis that is constantly updated as new evidence emerges. Rationality in this framework means having the courage to act only when your refined model of reality diverges materially from the common map held by your competitors. The first protocol for grounding your map is dynamic calibration. Traditional planning assumes a closed environment where data is analyzed in quarterly or annual stages, creating a dangerous time lag between a terrain shift and a map update. High-intent thinkers are replacing this with agent-assisted Bayesian architecture, a tri-agent workflow designed to maintain a living decision loop. The system utilizes a data agent to ingest structured evidence from live streams, an inference agent to perform recursive updates using the formula $PTH ETA _I mid-D _1 T propto PD _I P TH _I PTH _I mid-D _1 T1 and an interpretation agent to convert these probabilistic shifts into actionable narratives. The second protocol is the field reality order. Strategic failure often stems from the fallacy of detachment, where executives analyze inappropriately. Aggregated data while remaining isolated from the ground-level workers and customers who actually inhabit the territory, believing your own dashboard is the greatest threat to your survival. To ground your plan, you must seek out indisputable facts through direct observation. This requires you to ignore the smoothed-out reports and look for the microscopic cracks to outliers in user behavior or supply chain friction that the map is designed to ignore, but the terrain is beginning to manifest. Furthermore, you must utilize double-loop learning to ensure your map remains robust. Most systems focus on single-loop learning, fixing execution errors while keeping the underlying map unchanged. A high-intent strategy is structurally designed to support learning-driven interventions that represent situations as they actually unfold. This prevents the entropy trap where meaning is lost as a system grows increasingly complex and disorganized. You win not by having the most beautiful map, but by being the architect of a reality that is structurally designed for the terrain as it exists now, not as it was when the cartographers first set out. Finally, the high-intent thinker masters the art of strategic patience. In a culture obsessed with speed, many plans fail because leaders move based on a map's timeline rather than the territory's readiness. Strategic patience is a form of disciplined restraint, a conscious choice to wait for the right conditions or activation energy before moving forward. It differs from indecision because it is rooted in the confidence that your map is accurately updated. By balancing risk with restraint and preserving optionality, you ensure that when the moment for action arrives, it yields a result that is disproportionately large compared to the effort expended. To escape the cycle of relative deprivation, you must perform a fulfillment audit. Achievement and fulfillment operate on entirely different logical terms. While achievement is a quantitative measure of external results, the revenue generated, the titles earned. Fulfillment is a qualitative measure of internal alignment. The high achiever paradox occurs when you win a game where the rules were never yours to begin with, leaving you trapped by the very life you designed to free you. You must distinguish between instrumental goals that serve your vision and signaling goals designed solely to impress a reference group. Breaking this cycle requires identifying your success trap. The behaviors and playbooks that got you to your current level, such as micromanagement, extreme self-reliance, and a safe risk-taking posture, often exactly what prevents you from reaching the next stage of growth. You win today through sheer force of will, but you fail to scale because you have become the structural bottleneck of your own operation. To transform, you must give yourself permission to grow into a different kind of leader, one who leads through systems and empowers others, rather than one who simply executes tasks. This transition is often blocked by the golden handcuffs and the fear of vulnerability. Many US professionals believe that admitting disappointment or exhaustion is a sign of weakness that will erode their status. However, thinking you must carry the entire burden alone leads to chronic stress, isolation, and eventually total burnout, which is now the rule rather than the exception among high-level leaders. Real structural stay power comes from scaling capability and shared responsibility rather than scaling your own exhaustion. Ultimately, your intellectual edge in the 2026 economy is the ability to ground your success in your own terrain rather than a cultural map. You must move from a finite mindset of crushing competitors to an infinite mindset of advancing a just cause, a vision for the future so compelling that it justifies long-term commitment. When your work is anchored in identity and values rather than just outcomes, the dopamine release of achievement is replaced by the sustainable satisfaction of purpose. You stop sprinting toward a finish line that doesn't exist and start designing a life that you actually want to inhabit. Game theory in 2026 is no longer a theoretical exercise for mathematicians. It is the operational blueprint behind high-stakes pricing, negotiations, and partnerships. At its core, it is the study of strategic decision-making, where every choice you make is a move in a game, where outcomes depend on the choices of others. For the high-intent leader, mastering this real-world chess allows you to move beyond reactive guesswork and build strategy based on competitor incentives, likely responses, and shifting market demand. The most critical hurdle to long-term success is the Nash equilibrium, the point where individuals, in pursuit of their own interests, arrive at a suboptimal outcome for the entire group. This is perfectly illustrated by the classic prisoner's dilemma, where mutual betrayal leads to a loss for all parties. In the US corporate landscape, this manifests as systemic mistrust, where co-founders or partners waste thousands of hours and millions of dollars on protective contracts and constant monitoring rather than focusing on the shared value they could collaboratively build. In the agency economy of 2026, workers transition from performing tasks to directing autonomous AI agents, making the game even more complex. You are no longer just managing humans. You are orchestrating a workforce of specialized models that can act and decide on their own behalf. This shift demands a new level of strategic clarity. Your role is to define the why and the constraints, while human judgment remains the final checkpoint for the nuanced decisions AI cannot reach. To thrive in these repeated interactions, you must adopt the tit-for-tat strategy, becoming high trust by default but responding immediately to exploitation. Trust is earned over time through small repeated actions, and in 2026, it has become the most valuable currency in the supply chain and beyond. High-intent individuals realize that achieving global optima requires playing long-term games with long-term people, systematically eliminating bad actors who prioritize short-term tactical advantages over enduring partnerships. One of the most profound power plays is the stag hunt, which represents the tension between safe, low-reward independence and high-reward cooperation. In the US government contract space or large-scale B2B ventures, you face a choice: bid alone for a small sod and win the hare, or combine expertise for a strong chance at a transformative deal. The hunt succeeds only when uncertainty is reduced through clear, formal commitments and a mutual understanding that bigger gains require shared risk and aligned goals. Applying game theory to your pricing strategy means modeling how competitors will respond to your moves, rather than acting in a vacuum. Layers of behavioral economics reveal that customer perception of fairness and deal framing often override purely economic logic. By structuring referrals and partnerships as repeated games with consistent, small rewards, you build long-term loyalty that social comparison alone cannot sustain. Success belongs to those who design win-win collaborations that are harder to counter because they share value equitably among all players. This shift requires you to move from a finite mindset of beating competitors to an infinite mindset of improvement. In an infinite game like business or global trade, there are no final winners or losers. Only those who remain in play and those who drop out due to a lack of will or resources. By identifying worthy rivals, who excel where you struggle. You stop focusing on winning a temporary race and start focusing on becoming the entity that future generations will need. This transition turns the specter of obsolescence from a threat into a fuel for continuous evolution. Ultimately, the game theory blueprint allows you to navigate the entropy trap, the natural slide toward chaos and complexity in organizational systems. By simplifying your decision-making into a repeatable lattice of models, you zoom out from the immediate surface gain and anticipate the ripples of your choices. This intellectual edge is mandatory for any leader moving into the agentic era, where speed and clarity determine who defines the rules and who is merely a pawn in someone else's game. In the era of the agentic economy, the ultimate strategic advantage isn't the quality of your map, but the speed at which you can redraw it. In 2026, the most successful US enterprises are moving away from fixed quarterly targets toward a framework of continuous hypothesis testing. They treat their business plans not as a direct reflection of the world, but as a set of probabilistic bets. When the territory shifts due to a new AI breakthrough, a regulatory pivot, or a supply chain shock, they don't blame the terrain for not matching their map. They update their priors and act with the courage that only real-world evidence can provide. To ground your own strategy, you must perform what we call a field reality audit. You have to ignore the smoothed-out, aggregated data of your dashboards and look for the microscopic cracks in the territory, the outliers in consumer behavior, or the silent friction in your operations that the map is designed to overlook. Epistemological humility is the prerequisite for 2026 survival. You must accept that while your models are essential reductions of a complex world, they are always one step behind the truth. By maintaining a healthy skepticism of your formal systems and prioritizing direct observation over detached analysis, you move closer to the truth curve of reality. Ultimately, the map versus territory model is a call to intellectual bravery. It requires you to stop hiding behind the safety of a perfect plan and start engaging with the messy, high-stakes complexity of the actual terrain, while your competitors are still trying to follow a 2024 map for a 2026 world. You are operating as the architect of a strategy that is structurally designed to adapt. You aren't just working hard. You are building an antifragile system that gains strength from the very volatility that destroys those who are blinded by their abstractions. You win by being the only person in the room who knows that the map is merely a tool, while the territory is where the game is actually won. If you are ready to stop operating in a vacuum and start mapping the reality of 2026, subscribe to High Intent. We don't provide opinions. We provide the frameworks that anchor you to the truths that cannot be reduced. Each week, we strip away the noise of conventional wisdom and hand you the cognitive blueprints required to master the territory. The future belongs to the high-intent thinker, the one who dares to ask why, until the only thing left is the truth. Join us as we build the strategic blueprints for elite thinking. This has been the Map versus Territory model. Your intellectual edge starts here.